Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. It's Tim and Julie Harris, and this is, of course, our daily podcast. And if you are a new listener, and we're picking up hundreds of new listeners every single day, I've got good news for you. We have literally thousands of past podcasts. We've been doing this show since, arguably in a formalized way, since 2013, 2014. We've done it every single day for that many years. But prior to that, we were actually doing podcasts as well, but we were doing them in a less formal way. So we have at least, and this is insane to say, but it is true, 7,000 past podcasts. So if you want to listen to more podcasts, remember they're waiting for you over on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or over on our Made website. Now, speaking of which, a lot of you are wanting our notes from the podcast because we put a lot of work into these notes, Julie in particular. So if you want any of the notes from the podcast, we don't have room. We used to be able to cut and paste them and drop them into the show description on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, all the other places we're published. But we can't do it anymore because they limited the space. So we had to make it so that the newsletter is the only place where our notes live. And I know you're going to want these notes. So just simply go to, you have to sign up for the newsletter. It is free. It takes 2 seconds to do, harrisrealestatedaily.com. And that's where you're going to get all these notes. And it's pages of notes. And they're written in article format so you can easily use them. But the notes are, again, designed for you to use primarily, but they're also designed if you're wanting to do any training yourself of maybe your team or your agents in your marketplace, or maybe you're with EXP and you want to do a training for your EXP group. You certainly can use our notes as well. A lot of people use them for all kinds of different things. And maybe you're just going to use them as a premise for an article you're writing or something like that for your own content. Anyway, the information is there. We're giving it to you to use, but you do have to subscribe. Go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. That is one of the many ways that we do spend a lot of time and effort thinking of ways to make your lives better, and not just by motivating you and telling you can walk on coals, but we want to actually give you the information that you need to be the highest and truest version of yourself as a real estate practitioner, the best version of yourself as a real estate agent. And again, our notes are a great place to start. So just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. All right. The focus of today's podcast is your database a dumpster fire or a lead generation machine? So Julie, why was this a topic that you decided to focus on?
Well, I know talking about your database doesn't sound like the most exciting thing in the world, but it is a very important thing that a lot of your business will come from when you handle it correctly. And, this is also a result. Remember, we've done lots of surveys and work and panels and things with different agents. And I will never forget, you asked a panel of very experienced agents and brokers if they were in front of, hundreds of people, and you asked them the question, if you could change one thing looking back on your career, what would it be? And I think agents that were listening had a lot of, things they thought they were going to say, but to a person, they all said, I would have done a better job earlier on nurturing my database. Why? Because they all said this. One of them said he would have saved, or not spent, however you want to look at it, hundreds of thousands of marketing dollars and things that he was trying and speculating on to create new business all the time, versus nurturing his existing business and friends and past clients, otherwise known as your database. That's why.
Well, and again, a lot of people, especially your driver type personalities, they don't want to have to call their centers of influence and past clients because they want to avoid having to have amiable conversations with them.
Chit chat, small talk, all that kind of stuff that drives drivers crazy. And that person I was referring to is absolutely a driver. So they're probably more guilty of that. But in retrospect, though, I think he was being very introspective, and I believe that he would have preferred to do it the other way and nurtured his existing clients, because this particular person had, I don't know, what did he say? He had like over 5,000 past clients or something crazy.
He did. And I think we need to add a caveat to this. Mm-hmm. We always lean into that NAR statistic because it's so interesting. After 5 years, 61% of the average agent's business comes from centers of influence and past clients. the thing that agents get confused of when they think of that statistic, and then you'll hear on average, depending on your market, 10% of the agents or 10% of the people in your database will
That's the next part of our notes. Yeah, exactly.
we'll do a real estate transaction with you per year. But here's the thing I want you to keep in mind, and I don't want to step on any of Julie's points as I'm looking at them. But the moral of the story is that statistic is being used to sell agents into things that frankly aren't very effective because it's essentially bastardizing the facts. So the fact is, after 5 years, 61% of all your business will come from centers of influence and past clients. And the other fact is, let's just say it's a fact that on average, 10% of the people in your database will do business with you. So a lot of agents then do is they think their mission in life is to create a ton of leads and put them in a long-term CRM and
to
drip
work
on
the
them.
percentages, right?
Exactly, because they're just trying to make that 10% work for them. And they say, well, the more people I have in my database, then 10% of that big number is going to be the transactions I'll have an opportunity to do every year. And then when it doesn't happen, they're saying, well, what the hell's going on? And well, then you call up the marketing company that sold that to you in the first place, and they're going to say, well, you need to do more mailings, you need to do more videos. And that's the point of it is. And I'm just kind of foreshadowing and pointing out some of the fallacies in the way that things are being presented to you guys. And Julie and I are going to cut through all of that so you can make clear decisions that are going to result in you closing literally hundreds, if not thousands of transactions. So Julie, without any further delay.
Well, it is true that study after study, including our own work with thousands of agents across the country, shows that when your database is properly nurtured, that's the important part, it should yield you at least a 10% return. Most of our coaching clients, certainly the ones that have been with us for a long time, and our elite coaching clients, our one-on-one coaching clients, their returns on their database are more like 30 to 40%. But it's not an estimate. That's a reality. It's backed by numbers from not just us, but Housing Wire did a survey on this. Real Trends has come up with the same thing as well. So on to, the 10% rule, right? So if you have 200 people in your database, not 2 billion because you think you're going to work that 1% will luck out and work with you. If you have just 200 people that hear from you all the time, that's 20 deals a year. Multiplied by an average commission of 10,000, you're looking at least a $200,000 income stream, more for some of you with higher average sale prices.
But again, I'm going to level off there, Julie, because that's where people get confused. So
Right.
just because you have 200 people in your database, if they're not true centers of influence and past clients, if they're just people you created from a drip campaign or not a drip campaign, but it doesn't even matter where.
Random
they're not true.
people.
Right. Marketing, advertising, branding, those types of things. Somebody filled out a form and they're in your newsletter. That's not what we're talking about. So when you put someone in your centers of influence and past client list, you put them in your database, let's just say, you got to really differentiate between who should be there and who shouldn't be in there. And by being in there, it's the person that's like you kept a list from people you met at an open house and you're dropping them in your centers of influence and past client list. Well, you can, but that's not going to be what we're talking about. The people that actually you have a relationship with, that you call on a regular basis, those are the ones that, if you're really being honest with yourself, you might have 200 people in your database. And yeah, you're right, 10% or 20 of those people are going to do a real estate transaction this year. But because they don't feel connected to you, because you've not you haven't built that relationship with them following our system, they're not going to do business with you. That's the reason that ultimately those percentages don't work out. And by forming a relationship, I'm not talking about more drip campaigns. I'm not talking about more social media. I'm not talking about stuff like that. That's not forming a relationship. That's just, spewing marketing and advertising and branding on them. I'm talking about calling them and having meaningful conversations. So Julie, let's move on.
So here's the quick quiz. We're going to move fairly quickly here. What kind of database are you running? Excuse me. So is it a lead generation machine or is it a dumpster fire? Number one, do you even have a database? We still hear this too often. Don't overthink it. Don't spend 6 months researching CRMs or blow your budget on something that you will never use. There are CRMs that it takes 10 pages in for you to do anything, which means you never do anything. So your database is only powerful if it exists, and it's only valuable if you know how to use it. So I would say go more simple and basic, but know how to use it. Go ahead.
All right. Well, by knowing how to use it, I'll give you guys the punchline to all of this. You've got to call them. That's it.
Well, that is point number 2.
Yep. All right. So have to know how to use it, and you could do all the best mailings and the best everything forever. But if you don't actually communicate and talk to them, especially in the day and age where everyone's oversaturated with digital communication, it's ridiculous how many different things you guys get grabbing for your attention every single day. It's horrible. But how many times do you have actually somebody call you up and try to have a meaningful conversation with you, trying to bring something of value, voice to voice, person to person? When you have somebody in your life whether it's maybe you see them every day at Orange Theory, or maybe you see them when you're going on your walk. Those relationships, those are the people that you become friends with. But even if you're not friends with them, they still know you're in real estate. You're still seeing them on a regular basis. Those are the people you put in your centers of influence and past clients, and your actual centers of influence and past clients. But the people that you're just dripping on, the reason that they don't transact with you is because there's no real connection. That should make sense to every one of you, because guys, listen, and this has been proven countless times. When someone goes to decide who they're going to use for their service professional, real estate agent, the first thing that they do is they ask themselves, who do I already know and trust that I can use as a real estate agent? Someone I've used in the past, most likely. And if they can think of someone that they know and trust that they've used in the past, that's the person that's going to get the call first. It's not necessarily the person they're going to do business with, but they're definitely going to call that person. Now, if they don't know somebody that they know and trust already, then they're going to ask for a referral from a trusted friend or advisor. So this is I'm going to give you guys, Julie's going to remember the percents here in a second. And then it's been, different studies have shown this, that less than 10%, I've also come across, I think it was a Harvard business something or another, that said it was like 4% of folks choose who they're going to work with based on marketing, advertising, and branding.
That's right.
So I want you to think about what I just said. Most everybody is going to make a decision on who they're going to work with, not from marketing, branding, advertising, but from who they've worked with in the past, or a referral from a trusted friend or advisor. So if you're spending all your money, energy, emotional, everything, hopes and prayers and dreams on marketing and advertising, and it's not working, it's because it doesn't really work like you've been sold into believing it works. Because even if you come across somebody that's doing a lot of marketing and advertising, and you ask them where their last 10 transactions come from, assuming they had 10 transactions, every single one of them are going to come from centers of influence and past clients. First-time buyers that you pick up here and there are, the outliers, but virtually all transactional business, transactional is, in other words, a closing, comes from one of those first two categories, not marketing and advertising. So how do you translate all this? Your job is to accept that and then become the person that they feel that is their centers of in their center of influence. Who do I know that I can hire to, fix my roof, or I can hire to fix my dog or fix my car? Who do I already know that I know, love, and trust? And if there's nobody there, then who can I go to ask for advice? You want to be in those two categories. And nowadays, unlike realistically, maybe even 10 years ago, doing stuff digitally has become so ineffective versus how it was 10 or 15 years ago. 10 or 15 years ago, it wasn't oversaturated. By oversaturated, I mean, there's so much marketing and branding, so many messages that are being sent to all of us for every damn thing, that you don't pay attention to any of it. But you do pay attention to the person. Remember, who do I already know, love, and trust? And if I don't have someone that I know, love, and trust to fix my roof, then I'm going to go ask my neighbor who maybe has a referral for me. And that's how you're going to make your decision. That is a major way that once you shift in your thinking about that, will cause you to have different types of relationships with people. Number one, it'll make it so that you're more intentional about being of service to other people. That's the little spiritual shift that actually changes. And number two, we're giving you permission to stop wasting so much money on marketing, branding, and advertising, which is essentially mostly a fruitless effort
Speculation.
in the first place. It is a speculation. So just keep that in mind as Julie moves on to point number three.
Okay. Number one, do you have a database? Number two, do you know how to use it? Take the tutorial if you don't. Number three, do you update your database weekly? That ties into knowing how to use it, right? Your database should be a living, breathing business tool. As Tim said, fewer people, but people who actually know who you are. So how do you do that weekly? Add new contacts from open houses that you've spoken with, not just somebody who signs in, somebody you've had a conversation with. Maybe you decide not to put them in because you find out they're never going to actually do anything.
Jules?
Yes.
So after you met someone at the open house and you had a conversation with them, if you just drop them into your CRM, which is what most of you do, and you never have another follow-up conversation, you're completely wasting your time.
Agreed.
Your job is to call them after you've met them at the open house and thank them for coming, and then follow our scripts and our system, see how motivated they are, and then decide which path to go.
That's
you
right.
might discover that they're never going to transact and they're just there looking to, whatever, just hanging out. Or you might find that they're a neighbor who's looking to sell their house, but you have to call every single one of them just by putting them in a CRM and dripping on them. That is 100% going to be the last thing you should do. When you come in contact with someone, get their phone number and always call them and take the conversation to the next level. Why? Because nobody else does that. And because we're all hardwired to be more connected to people that we obviously are speaking to, or even better, meeting face to face.
Yes, that's right. So fewer people, but quality leads that you've actually spoken with. You can enter key details. Remember, point number 3 is updating your database. Enter those key details: birthdays, kids' names, pet names, anniversaries, how you know them, what your last conversation was about, how are you connected. Whenever I talk about this point, I always remind myself, I've done a better job with this myself. When I started in my contacts on my iPhone, I'll give people like nicknames that remind me, like our neighbor across the street, Michigan Michelle. That tells me where I met her. Okay. So make it a warmer contact. Number 4, easy peasy. Do you regularly update your passwords? A secure database is protecting your business. You wouldn't leave your checkbook at an open house, so don't leave your digital Rolodex exposed either. That's easy.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So a lot of you are with these big brand brokerages that are trying to get you guys to use their proprietary CRM. And I remember I've had this conversation. Julie and I have been, I have to be careful where I go with this. Actually, I'm not going to be careful where I'm going to go with this. So we were asked to essentially provide coaching and training for one of the largest real estate brokerages in the world by volume. Matter of fact, they're the largest by volume. And we were interviewed, and we got to like the 3rd or 4th time that they were talking to us. And this would have been a big deal for our company. And they were very overt, and this is what they told us straight up. Because, they wanted us to basically go in there and beat on their agents on their behalf and get their agents to use their proprietary CRMs and systems. They wanted us to just essentially set aside what our normal cat and monkey show is, and then just focus on getting these agents, telling them all the reasons why this is the greatest software ever. This company in particular had invested ungodly amounts of money creating a system that none of the agents wanted to use, and they wanted us to essentially talk the agents into using it. They were trying to leverage our reputation amongst their agents to get their agents to want to follow their system, which is the typical conundrum with brokerages. And we said no, and we lost probably millions of dollars by saying no. And why do we say no? Because they then told us that they were planning on using the agents' data and the control they would have over the agents, because the agents were all using their CRMs, to make their brokerage, and this was the exact word they used, more sticky. In other words, they wanted to put golden handcuffs on the agents to stay at the brokerage, and the agents would have less leverage. So maybe the agent didn't like their commission split or some other gripe that the agent, had with the brokerage, and they go to the brokerage and they say, I want more commission, or I want this, the other thing. And all the while the broker knows that they have control of this agent's CRM.
Like if they left, they lose their CRM kind of thing.
Okay. Now I'm going to tell you guys another story. Oh man, this one I have to really be careful of. Okay, I'm going to tell the story. Well, this happened in 2019. I'm on the phone, and I remember we were standing. This is 2018, and it was May. This is how much of an impression this made on me. Again, Julie and I are having another conversation. This is with another big brokerage, and this brokerage in particular was talking about buying Julie and I's company and having us essentially be their new in-house de facto coaching and training organization. In this brokerage, by the way, if you're a broker, especially a big one, I'm going to give you a little cliff notes. Don't make your CRM and expect agents to use it, because they're never going to.
No.
Okay. So here was this conversation. This gentleman was essentially telling me the same things that the other broker had told me. And then he went as far as to say, bragging to me, that one of the things they were going to do, and I'm not making this up, is they were going to keep the agent's database. The agent could take their data with them, download it, but they were going to keep the agent's data, their CRM, their centers of influence and past clients, and then they were going to continue to work that agent's database even after the agent had left and gone to a different brokerage. And then when those leads or those folks that were in this left database would raise their hand saying, I want to buy or sell, this brokerage's big master plan was then to refer those leads to other agents in the brokerage and charge them 35%. You guys understand what I just said? So this brokerage was planning on hoping that we were going to help them get tens of thousands of agents to start using their proprietary CRM so that they could essentially take that agent's data, hold leverage over that agent into the future, but also then if that agent ever left, take their data and sell the leads that would have gone to the agent to another agent. Because he was telling me how their CRM is going to follow the leads behavior. Are they opening the emails? Are they watching the videos? Oh, their heat maps are telling them that this agent's more,
Stalking them.
this buyer or seller is obviously more motivated, things like that. And they read the report on the 10 things to do before I list my house, and they're looking for those types of things. Oh, that must be a seller that's thinking about, or an owner that's thinking about putting their house for sale. And the agent had left the brokerage. They were then taking that lead and giving them to another agent. Now, they never got that far because agents were too wise and didn't want to use their CRM. Moral of the story that I hope you're getting from all this is, I personally would never, as an agent, I wouldn't use a broker's CRM. No. And if you're at a brokerage and you're using the brokerage's proprietary CRM, you better be asking questions about who actually controls that data, because I got news for you. It isn't you. So protect
it's a point of leverage for them.
Well, the only value your real estate practice has, if you would ever want to go to sell it, is your database. That's it. And we've helped people sell their real estate practices before. And usually the way it works is maybe you get some money up front. You usually don't. But what you do is you get a percent of the referrals or a percent of the closed transactions that the owner of your real estate practice gets going to the future. That's how it works, typically for 5 years. So your database really is the only value at the end of the day that your practice has if you ever wanted to sell it. So Julie, let's move on.
Yes. So point number 5, do you use your database to actually communicate for real? Having the database on its own, its mere existence, is not enough. That's not the same as using it. Communication equals conversion. So we have in our notes several ways of staying in touch. How do you actually turn this into conversion? We did a podcast last week. I think it was a 2-part podcast about your 12-month center of influence action plan. Those are real world events. You can refer to that. You get a lot of that in Premier Coaching. Our coaching clients do a killer job on this. They really share this on their daily semi-private coaching calls, where they say, hey, here's the event I'm doing this weekend with my top 30 past clients. They're all going to get to know each other at my dinner party. That's the real world communication that makes them belong in your database. That's what creates referrals, is them actually hearing from you and doing things with you, right? You can certainly send digital newsletters and market updates, but that stuff goes a lot further when they hear from you for real. Delivering pop buys to your top 30 or top 50, writing 5 thank you cards or congratulations cards per day using your database. Provide free CMAs. I know Tammy Urbian in Virginia, she's getting a lot of business from doing a spring push for CMAs. This is how you actually use your database, not just have it exist and hope that percentage works, but working your database.
And all the notes that Julie's using are in at harrisrealestatedaily.com. There's a long list of suggestions, and we have done past podcasts on this. This is just an overview. Remember, in Premier Coaching, we don't just tell you to do 10 pop buys. We actually tell you what to do on the pop buy, what to say, what to deliver. The whole thing is drilled down, very detailed. It's not just what we're giving you now. All right, next point is point number 6. Do follow a consistent communication calendar, and just breaking it down daily. You should, if you have a database, take your whole entire database. Okay, let me just start out by telling you guys, taking you in a different direction. We think, and we're huge advocates, obviously, of yes, you can use a CRM. Yes, you can drip on them. Yes, you can do all the digital things. We do think you should do that, but all of those things are 1,000 times more effective if you're actually calling them. So the simplest thing to do is take your entire database of however many people you have. And if you have too many people, this is going to seem crazy, but let's just assume you have a real database, not just a dumpster fire database of people that you don't. If I called up some people in your database, how many of them would actually know who you were, right?
Not randos, real people.
Right. And then, maybe the first thing some of you need to do if you have a dumpster fire database is you need to go through and you need to remove the people that have, obviously have not had any interaction with you digitally or otherwise. Just purge them. They're not just going to all of a sudden decide to start opening your emails. Your emails are going to their spam. The next thing I would do, frankly, is if they were potential sellers or even buyers, go to find out if they transacted, and be ready to have your heart broken. You're going to see a lot of the people in your database actually ended up doing a transaction with somebody else, because it turns out they weren't just in your database, they were in 10 other agents' databases, but the agent that was actually doing the real work of real estate and making calls to those people was the one that ended up doing the deal. You guys following me on all this? So clean your list, scrub it down, get it to a manageable number. And when you have that manageable number, divide it by the number of work weeks, 4 work weeks in every month, divide the number of work days. Let's just call it 5 days, could be 6 days. of every week, and then divide your list by 24 people or 24 days. And that's the number of people you should be making contact with every single day. The moral of the story is make the calls and follow the rest of the plan. I know it's easier just to kind of fool yourself in thinking that the digital stuff is going to win the war. It doesn't, not nowadays. I'm going to say it because it's true. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, the digital stuff was actually, I won't say very effective, but a lot more effective than it is now. Nowadays, people just tune it out. People's preferences, what it takes to really have a meaningful impact on folks is a personal contact. It's not the digital stuff. The memes and all the other digital things do that to reinforce the personal contact. Please remember I told you that. Otherwise, in the future, you're going to wish you would have actually listened and taken action on that. Julie, let's go to the next point.
That was the last point, number 6.
Oh, that was the last point. Okay, yeah, there it is.
Well, I mean, we're talking about it having real communication. So it should be a combination of certainly, if you're going to do one thing, it should be pick up the phone and talk to them. If you talk to 5 a day, just on work days, and your database isn't ginormous, you're going to get through your entire database. Think about what would your business look like? What would your lead flow and your transaction flow, your closings look like if you were to just do that one point? Talk to 5 people a day from your database of no more than 200 to 300 people, but you do it every day like you take your vitamins or brush your teeth. What would your business look like when you are speaking with 100% of your database every 90 days? Some of you can do it every 30 days because your lists aren't huge. What would your business look like? It would be amazing. It would be well more than that 10% return that people have studied is what should be happening. And again, most of our coaching clients that follow this and don't just have an existence of some 1,000-person database, they nurture it, they talk to them, they do events, they talk to them, they're doing CMAs, all of that stuff. They're doing a lot more than 10%. And the thing is, why is it that the top producers, that the grizzled veterans say they would have done a better job at this? Because they look back and they see how many thousands of dollars in speculative hours they sat around waiting to create new business. That doesn't have to be you.
That's right. So there it is. That's an overview. Make sure you guys are joining Premier Coaching and do join our mastermind. Julie and I are getting ready to do a mastermind. I think we're doing one in, I think we're actually doing one today, Julie. I have to check my calendar. But the whole focus of this mastermind is we did a survey of all of our top clients, and we asked them, what are the 3 biggest challenges that you're having in your real estate business right now? And what we did is we created a plan to overcome each of those 3 challenges, and that's what we're presenting to you in this mastermind. The mastermind really is also a great way for you guys to connect with other agents that are also Tim and Julie podcast listeners, coaching clients, folks from around mostly the United States, but we had some people from Italy the last one we did and things like that. So make sure you join, and you can sign up for the mastermind. There's a link below in the show description, or you can just go to joinpremiercoaching.com, joinpremiercoaching.com. But again, there's a link below. Sign yourself up for the next mastermind. And chances are we're doing one, probably within an hour or 2, because we're going to try to we're doing one of these, I think, every other day for the next 3 days. There's our spring break. But look, we made a commitment to helping you guys make this your best year ever in real estate. So you make a commitment to yourself, making the decision and the commitment to make this the best year in your ever for yourself in real estate. And we're going to reinforce you and support you and get you into action as often as we can. In the meantime, thank you for keeping this the #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate agents in at least the United States. And remember, we have thousands of past podcasts. You can go back and listen at any time. And remember to subscribe to the newsletter, harrisrealestatedaily.com. Have a fantastic day, and we'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.